So there are a lot of videos out there that talk about prompt engineering, but in this video, we're going to be doing a deeper dive into prompting AI agents. And by the end of this video, you should have a solid grasp of prompt engineering, some of the best techniques to use, different structures, and how to prompt AI agents effectively. So first, why should you learn prompt engineering? So learning how to communicate with large language models through prompt engineering is one of the most important skills that you can learn before you start building AI automations and AI agents. The reason for this is because it directly impacts the outcomes for the AI systems that you build. With better prompts comes increased reliability of your AI agents and automations. At the end of the day, we want these automations and agents to have consistent behavior and to be able to execute effectively on the tasks that we give them. So reliability is really important. Also, accuracy. We want these AI agents and automations to do the task accurately and effectively. And well-engineered prompts lead to more accurate responses and task completion. And lastly, a well-crafted and optimized prompt helps reduce token costs and computational load. As we'll learn, the longer the prompts that we give these AI agents, the more tokens that they will use. So it's really important to craft these prompts efficiently and not include excessive information if not necessary. So why do AI agents need different prompts? If you've ever chatted with ChatGPT or Claude from Anthropic, then this is an example of conversational prompting. This type of prompting is more interactive. It's like having a conversation in which you're going back and forth with the large language model. The large language model is iterating and refining its responses over time based on the chat history. And there's human oversight at every step because you're in the chat responding to the large language model. Now with AI agents, we have to prompt them in a different way. So we need to use structured prompting. And the reason for this is because we have one shot to get it right. And these AI agents must work reliably at scale, and there's limited human oversight when you compare it to conversational prompting with ChatGPT. So clear, consistent, and structured prompts are the backbone for reliable AI systems. Now, the stakes for not being able to craft reliable prompts for AI agents are significantly higher. When prompts fail, you waste compute costs, you have broken workflows, you have unreliable outputs, and you have failed automations. And when they succeed, you now have consistent accuracy, lower operational costs, fewer retries needed, and you now have scalable systems. Now on the right, you should think of AI agents as interns, and they need instructions. They need clear step-by-step instructions that remove any type of possibility for misinterpretation, and that is where prompting comes in. Now there's two strategic approaches to prompting AI agents. There's proactive prompting, which is basically writing a comprehensive system prompt upfront with extensive rules and edge cases baked in. Now, this would be equivalent to asking ChatGPT to generate an extensive prompt for a personal assistant AI agent, and then you'd get this big, long prompt, and you'd paste that into your automation workflow software. Now, the problem with this type of prompting is that one, it is hard to debug because you're starting out with an extensive, very long system prompt. So you won't really know what's exactly driving the behavior of the AI agent. And because you have this long, bloated prompt, the cost per execution will be extremely high. And it's also possible that you'll miss out on a lot of different edge cases because you're starting with a large prompt that was generated by AI and doesn't accurately capture all of the edge cases that you may find through testing and iterating. Now, the second strategic approach to prompting is reactive prompting, which basically means that you start simple. You start line by line, and you add instructions only when specific errors appear in production. This is easier to debug. There's fewer unnecessary rules or lines that you add, which means less costs per execution. And there's just less confusion because you've actually worked through this prompt line by line, issue by issue, and you've only added what is necessary to add. Now, these are benefits. The con here is that it does take some time, right? You need to do the testing yourself, but that is just part of the game here. You need to understand what type of issues this AI agent will run into and how to address them effectively and how each line you add impacts the behavior of the AI agent. So the golden rule here at the bottom is fix one problem at a time and iterate based on real failures. This is how you minimize your costs and you maximize the efficiency of your prompts for AI agents. Now let's talk about some essential best practices for prompting. So first, you always want to use Markdown formatting. Large language models understand this type of formatting the best. Second, you want to add examples strategically. So again, we're building our prompt reactively, and we're only adding examples for failures and edge cases that appear while testing. Third, one task per prompt. Don't try and make an AI agent do everything. Instead, chain prompts for complex workflows rather than cramming everything together. And lastly, iterate reactively. So scale up slowly. Debug one error at a time based on real production issues. So just to cover Markdown formatting briefly here. So here's a summary of what Markdown syntax looks like. So you'd use hashtags for headings, multiple hashtags for subheadings. You'd use 2 stars on each side of a text to bold that text and emphasize that text to a large language model. You'd use 1 star to italicize text. If you're looking to create an unordered list, you'd use a hyphen before the item. If you're looking to add an ordered list, which uses numbers, then you'd use the number dot the item. And then if you're looking to create a divider or a horizontal rule, then it would be 3 hyphens in a row. And we're going to talk about the different sections of a prompt for AI agents in which you would use these headings to separate each section. So you have the syntax for the H1 heading, which would just be a hashtag. The H2 heading would have 2 hashtags. H3 would have 3 hashtags. And this just helps the AI agent understand the structure of your prompt more effectively. And again, you have the text formatting, which is pretty straightforward. You have lists, horizontal rules, which can be 3 hyphens, 3 stars, 3 underscores on a line by themselves. So moving forward, we're going to cover short versus long structured prompting and when to use both. So for short structured prompting, this is for simple objective tasks like data extraction or parsing. The components here would be an objective or task, rules, an example, and a variable. And an example of this would be identify the full name from this invoice, and you'd include a rule, so only output the full name, no explanation. So because this is a very predictable task, you can think of this as an AI automation. You really don't need a long prompt here. You just need to be clear and concise and tell it exactly what you need it to do and provide any rules, examples, or variables which will help guide the execution of the task. Now for long structured prompts, these are best used for complex tasks like content generation and subjective evaluations. And the components here are the role, persona, the objective and task, the context, instruction and rules, examples, and variables. And again, at the bottom, we've covered this before, but single task optimization. So always optimize prompts for one task and one task alone. Don't try and make a jack of all trades AI agent, which can do everything and complete multiple tasks. Just to dive deeper into the long structured prompting, again, these are best for complex tasks, and we have 6 different headings here. So these would be the headings in your prompt, and don't worry, I will give you an example of a full prompt later in this video. Now, the first one would be role persona, in which you're telling the AI agent what its role is and its expertise and background. So you are a world-class blank. Number 2 would be the objective and task, in which you're telling the AI agent the clear goal and task at hand that the AI agent is trying to achieve. Now, the third one is context. This is pretty self-explanatory, but you're just providing context for the AI agent and why the task matters, and it adds reliability. The fourth one is instructions and rules. So these are constraints, formats, don'ts. This is something that you definitely add to as you're reactively prompting. If the AI agent is doing things that you don't want it to do, then you might want to add a rule that restricts the AI agent's behavior, and you'd add that here. Number 5 is examples, and the examples work best when you provide input-output pairs. So you provide it an example of the input that the AI agent is going to receive, and you'd give it an example output of how it should respond effectively. This will help guide the AI agent, and really all it needs is a couple input-output pairs to understand exactly what it needs to do. Number 6 are variables. These are placeholders for dynamic data and really just helps contextualize any types of variables that the AI agent will have to handle. And at the bottom, we have a few useful phrases. So you are a world-class ... with particular expertise. So for some reason, by just telling it that you are a world-class blank, the quality of the responses that you get will improve drastically. So the second one, it is vital to my career. So actually some type of emotional manipulation actually creates better results with these large language models. And if it knows that it's vital to your career, it will do its job a lot better. Some other useful phrases include always output in JSON format, think step by step. This ensures that the AI agent thinks about what it's supposed to do and executes the task a bit more carefully and thoughtfully. And lastly, important if you want to highlight anything in particular to the AI agent. Now for agent prompting, we are going to be using a long structured prompting framework, but it's going to be a little bit different, right? And this is best for multi-agent AI systems with multiple tools and sub-agents. So everything here is the same, except there are two additions. So number 4 is the SOP. So this is similar to a standard operating procedure. Remember that AI agents are a lot like interns, in which we want to break down the steps that they need to take in a very numerical way. So right here, we're going to provide an SOP to the AI agent on how to go about the tasks provided. And then number 6 is the tools and sub-agents, right? So we're going to provide descriptions and use cases for each tool and sub-agent, and we're going to be covering why that is very important very shortly. Now, a few other changes here are for examples. We're still going to have input and output pairs, but instead these will be examples of the SOPs in action. And then finally, we're going to add notes at the very end. So large language models have a funny way of emphasizing the beginning of a prompt and the end of a prompt the most. There's this idea that the content in the middle is emphasized less. So notes at the very end are like the final reminders, the important things that you want to emphasize to the large language model, which may be getting lost in the middle. So now let's move on to agent prompting best practices. So for AI agents, their only responsibility should be decision making. So using tools or sub-agents or communication with sub-agents or the human, us, right? They shouldn't be a jack of all trades trying to do multiple tasks by themselves, having multiple responsibilities, generate content, respond to emails, manage my email box, all of this stuff without delegating those tasks to other tools or sub-agents. So a comparison of this is here is an example objective for an AI agent, which is a jack of all trades. So your job is to categorize emails, send emails, create calendar events, whereas the one on the right, your job is to manage my inbox and decide the right course of action to take according to the instructions given to you. You have the following tools available to you: categorize emails, send emails, create calendar events. So this objective is much more of decision-making and communicating with those tools, not so much of performing those tasks itself. All right, so now if we move into an example of agent prompting, so starting off with the role, so you are a world-class personal administration AI agent. So remember, we're using the world-class phrase there, with particular expertise in meticulous and accurate management of the user's personal administration task. You coordinate a team of specialized sub-agents. So again, decision-making and communication, and then we list those sub-agents, so /email manager agent, /calendar manager agent, and /research agent, which is how you'd reference them in edit-n. And then on the right, you can see just an outline of what this agent looks like. So you got the orchestrator agent, which is what it's called at the very top, so personal administration AI agent, and then you have the 3 sub-agents below, right? And then the objective, your goal is to help the user perform tasks related to their email inbox, calendar, and research needs using your specialized sub-agents. Think step by step, which will make the AI agent a bit more cautious, a bit more thoughtful on how it approaches each task to ensure thorough and accurate task management. For every request you receive, you have 3 key responsibilities: decide which sub-agents to delegate tasks to depending on the requests, communicate clearly to each sub-agent what needs to be done with all relevant details. Again, communication, delegation, communicate results or outstanding questions back to the user. Now moving on to context, you will be triggered with a request from the user as their world-class personal administration agent. You are in charge of managing their email inbox, calendar, and research workflows. It is vital to the user's productivity and success that you perform your job meticulously and accurately. So again, adding context, a little bit of emotional manipulation there, saying it's vital to our productivity and success, which is great, though issue with that. And then the SOP. So this is the standard operating procedure, right? So it is vital, again, to the user's career that you always think step by step through the following process to ensure accurate management. So 1, parse the request and identify if it relates to emails, calendar, or research. So that is step 1. When we give it a task, we'd want it to do that. And then step 2, decide which subagents to use. 3, communicate detailed, precise instructions to the chosen subagents. If required details are missing, ask the user before proceeding. Execute the task, report back clearly with results or next steps. Then instructions. It is vital to the user's career, once again, that you always follow the SOP. Important, so we're going to highlight this. Always confirm times and dates in the time zone provided by the user. If none is specified, clarify before scheduling. That's pretty important because we don't want to book a meeting with someone if the time zone is wrong, right? So never assume missing details. Ask for clarification. Accuracy, clarity, and professionalism are required at all times. Now we list the subagents. So this is the subagents and tools section. So we're basically outlining the 3 different agents that it has here, the purpose, when to use, how to communicate with it, and the expected output. Then we provide examples. So these would be input-output pairs. So example 1, schedule a meeting with John Doe tomorrow at 3 p.m. and email him the confirmation. Create event for 3 p.m. with John Doe with the calendar manager agent, email manager agent, send confirmation email to John, report meeting scheduled at 3 p.m. tomorrow with John Doe, confirmation sent. And then the last piece are notes, right? It is vital to the user's career. Again, we're going to stress that you always perform tasks meticulously. Something is unclear, always ask before proceeding. Think step by step for every action. Ensure all confirmations are short, clear, and professional. So that's what an example agent prompt would look like. Now let's quickly talk about some common use cases and recommendations for different types of tasks. So data extraction, typically you use short prompts plus cheaper models usually work pretty well here. You're simply providing instructions on the data to extract. It's much more rigid and black and white. You don't need the best models to execute this. On the contrary, content generation, this is one of the hardest use cases. So you're always going to use long prompts plus the best models. Data transformation, very similar to data extraction, often short prompts plus examples on how to transform the data. Use strong models for reliability. Classification, again, simple cases, short prompts. More subjective cases, you're going to use long prompts plus rules. For evaluation, you're going to have to provide some context, and you're most likely going to have to use long prompts plus the best models for reliability. And then decision making, as we've talked about, you're always going to want to use long prompts and the best models for AI agents here. Now, just to recap, some of the best practical optimization tips that I can give you is debug methodically, change one thing at a time. Remember, we want to use reactive prompting. So we're going to be doing that when troubleshooting prompt issues. It's a lot harder to troubleshoot when you start with a massive prompt and you make one change. You have no idea what is actually driving the behavior of these AI agents. So start simple, start small, and use reactive prompting. Next up is that you want to delegate heavy lifting. You don't want to overwhelm these AI agents. You want to offload complex tasks to specialized tools or subagents. The third one is use strategic emphasis. So place key reminders at the end in that notes section. Remember, models weight beginnings and endings more heavily, so we want to take advantage of that. And the fourth one is to monitor costs. So longer prompts equal higher costs at scale, and we want to track token usage and optimize accordingly. So just remember that prompt engineering is one of the best skills that you can have for building reliable AI agents that work consistently at scale. So start simple, begin with minimal prompts, test often, validate with real data, and scale slowly, and add complexity iteratively only when it makes sense. So I hope you guys enjoyed this guide on prompt engineering specifically for AI agents and AI automations. And now you have a foundational grasp of prompt engineering. This is a very important skill to have in your tool belt as you're building out AI automations and AI agents. And I appreciate you making it to the end of this video. And of course, if you want to learn more about AI and how to build different types of AI agents in n8n, then make sure to subscribe and stay tuned for more.